Hey, I'm Bob at ILikeToMakeStuff. Today I'm going to show you how to make a 4-color screen printing press. So I got some plans from printingplans.com. These guys made a really nice set of plans for 4-color press, and I'm following them generally, but not exactly. The biggest difference was that those plans call for a dedicated table for the press, and I wanted to build mine so that it could be clamped to my existing work table. So I'm cutting all the panels here and the 2x4s, and you'll see the stack of everything that's needed right there. I sanded down all the pieces that needed it just to clean it up. This isn't like a showpiece, so it doesn't really matter what it looks like, but nobody likes splinters. So you have to make a couple octagons with this, and with a speed square that's pretty easy. You just measure in from the corners the same distance and then use the 45. Here's a place where I did something different than the plans. I'm mounting my base plate on some 2x4s, and the channel in between the 2x4s will eventually hold the arm that's used. You'll see that later on, but I'm creating a channel here so that the arm can slide in later. The Lazy Susan needs to be attached perfectly in the center because everything is going to pivot around one point, and so you're going to have to work really hard to make sure everything is centered. These are the 4 arms for the screens. Using some normal door hinges, you need to make sure that you mark the perfect center of these arms so that they're all lined up. I'm just screwing these two together to make a thicker block. This is going to be a pedestal in the center. Using the octagon that we made earlier, you go ahead and mark for where the Lazy Susan's going to fit. Again, the centering on this is really, really important. And then lay it in place, mark the screw holes. You want to pre-drill all the holes in this, as many as you possibly can. This took some adjusting, trying to spin it around and make sure that all 4 of the corners of the Lazy Susan were actually in the right places. I pre-drilled some holes and then flipped it over and marked the center for the pedestal that I made a few minutes ago. Pre-drill some holes here just so you can see them on the other side. Hold it in place, flip it over, and then screw it together. Then attach the 2 pieces in the pre-drilled holes that you did earlier. Again, you want to make sure that this is centered, so just take your time with it. Each one of these arms is going to need some eyes on both sides of it, so drill some holes, centered. The placement of these isn't critical, but you want to try to get them about in the same place. Screw them in, and a good tip is to use a screwdriver. It helps give you some leverage to get them screwed in. Next, I had to make some brackets to put at the end of these arms. The screens are going to sit on these brackets eventually, and I just used some corner aluminum pieces that I had laying around. You find the center point, and then you mark 3/4 of an inch outward and make your holes there. These get screwed into the ends of the arms opposite the hinge, and you want to try to get these as centered as possible because they can later on be a guide to get your screen centered. You need to add another eye to the pedestal outside of each corner of the center block. I marked about 1.5 inches out. I don't think the placement is really critical here, but you just need to have them all about the same. Now you'll notice that there are 2 pieces of 2x4 screwed vertically at the end of the press right now. These are temporary, but I used them to center the arms as I was attaching the arms. You'll see in just a second. These eventually get replaced with some more permanent pieces that are part of the long extension arm. So I marked and pre-drilled the places for all the hinges on each side. And once I had them marked, went back and drilled them. Then it's just a matter of screwing the arms on. Those 2 pieces of 2x4 there are making sure that all of the arms are in the same place relative to the center pedestal. Now, as you add all the arms, you'll start to see how this is going to work. Next, you have to attach springs to turnbuckles. You're going to make some pieces that are going to eventually hold the arms to the eyes that are in the middle of the turntable. Using the S-hooks, you get everything connected, and don't worry about tensioning things first, just get it all connected, and then eventually you'll tension them later. Now you can see that it holds them up, you can spin them around and pull each arm down in its place. This is kind of tedious, but you have to drill a hole in each one of your clamps. I used some JB weld to attach the bottom of the clamp to the bracket on each arm. I'm not sure that this is entirely necessary, and the JB weld didn't really stick to the aluminum very well in the long run. Each one of the clamps is put in place, JB welded on the bottom, and then you drive a screw through it into the side of the arm. The screw is definitely the important part. Their plans show putting these in at an angle using a little block of wood. I'm not really sure why they do that, but it seemed like an extra step that I didn't need, so I didn't do it. After these were all attached, I went back and did a countersink in each one of these screw holes just so the screws were flush. Then I went back and cut one more piece of wood to set on top of the post. And it's going to be an octagon. It's going to act as a stop for each one of the arms as the springs bring them back up into their upper position. I went back and cut a 45-degree angle on each one of the edges where the arms will rest. Then mount that block in the center and screw it down. Finally, I flipped the whole thing over and added my base plate that I had cut originally. This is the part that's going to get clamped to the table. At this point, the press itself is really finished. The last thing to build is the arm and the platen. The platen is the piece that you set your shirt on or your paper on, whatever you're going to print on. And the arm holds the platen. I screwed this little block onto the arm as a stop. This will stop it from going in the channel too far. Then I clamped my press down to the table to hold it in place and slid the arm in. These two little guide pieces are going to be added on both sides of the arm, and that will help each screen arm to come down in the same position each time. The platen and the screen need to be perfectly parallel when you go to print, so I had to raise the platen up off the arm. I used some scrap wood and just made some risers to lift it up. After the block dried, I just took the clamps off and cut it down to a couple of strips to use as risers. The placement of these two risers on the bottom of the platen doesn't really matter, they're just there to lift it. What matters is the channel that you create. You use two pieces of 2x4 to create a channel right in the center of the platen. Now this needs to be the same size as your arm, and if you're using a standard 2x4, it should work just fine. Here you can see it all in action. This is how it's going to work once I get real screens on. Like I said before, I based this build loosely off of some plans that are available for free at printingplans.com. Michael Phipps and Dan Mitchell, I believe, are the guys that created it. Go there and check them out. They even sell kits to help you build it. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you want to see some more videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And I've got new Maker 101 videos coming up soon, as well as more project videos. Be sure to ask me some questions, have a conversation with me at Facebook, and all the content lives at ILikeToMakeStuff.com. If you want to support these videos, please check out my Patreon page. There's a video there that explains what it is and how it helps me. And any kind of support you can give me is awesome and really, really appreciated. I hope you guys have a great holiday season, and I'll see you next time. Bye.